The coffee shop on Amsterdam Avenue smells like cinnamon and broken promises, and I'm sitting by the window trying to pretend I don't recognize the woman in the corner. She's wearing a cream-colored cashmere sweater that costs more than my monthly rent now, and on her left ring finger sits a diamond. I know as well as I know my own heartbeat, because I picked it out. I sat in that jewelry store for 4 hours while my ex-husband, Mitchell, complained about the price, and I convinced him it would be worth it. I told him a woman remembers the ring. I told him it mattered. I was right. The thing about humiliation is that it doesn't feel like people describe it. It's not hot. It's not a flush of shame that rises and passes. Humiliation is ice water in your veins. It's the exact moment your brain catches up to what your eyes are seeing, and everything you thought was true about your life suddenly rearranges itself into a different shape. A shape that doesn't include you. Her name is Stephanie. I know this because I've been watching her social media for 6 months, ever since Mitchell filed for divorce. She's 24 years old. She has a yoga brand with 90,000 followers. She posts pictures of avocado toast and sunset hikes and thinks that's a personality. And she's wearing my ring. My name is Valerie. I'm 31 years old, and until approximately 2 hours ago, I thought I had lost everything that mattered. My marriage, my home, my future, my identity as someone's wife. But sitting here watching Stephanie order a matcha latte with an extra pump of vanilla, I realize I've been wrong about what loss actually is. I haven't lost anything. I'm just looking at what I gave away. Let me take you back to 7 years ago when I was 24 and Mitchell seemed like the opposite of everything I'd been running from. I grew up without money, without stability, without the kind of father who stayed. When I met Mitchell at a bar in Brooklyn where I was working double shifts, he represented possibility. He owned a marketing firm. He had an apartment in Manhattan. He had plans. What I didn't know was that he had something else too. He had the kind of charm that works backwards, through time. Every decision I'd made before meeting him suddenly looked foolish. Every dream I'd had that didn't involve him suddenly seemed small. He didn't ask me to quit my job. He just made it clear that working late made him feel abandoned. He didn't forbid me from seeing my friends. He just commented frequently about how they seemed off and how much he'd prefer if we spent time alone. He didn't take credit for my ideas. He just mentioned them to his business partners in meetings I wasn't invited to, and they all thought he was brilliant. None of this felt like control. It felt like love. It felt like finally being someone's priority. The turning point happened 5 years into our marriage. Mitchell's business had started taking off. We'd moved into a bigger apartment. We had a vacation home in the Hamptons. I'd become the kind of woman who lunched with other wives and had nothing to do with my own goals because I was too busy managing his image, his schedule, his moods. One Tuesday morning, I brought him coffee the way I always did. He was on a call, so I set it down quietly and turned to leave. But his voice caught me. "She's not working yet," he was saying to whoever was on the other end. "But eventually I'll get her into something. Right now, she's great at managing things. You know? She's not ambitious. She doesn't want to be anything. She's just good at being what other people need." I remember standing in that doorway, coffee growing cold in my hands, feeling something calcify inside me. Not all at once, like watching a river start to freeze. He saw me then. His expression shifted. He ended the call. He smiled that smile that had once made me feel like the most important person in the room, and suddenly I understood that smile had always been a mirror. He was just reflecting back whatever he wanted me to see. That night, I applied to graduate school. I didn't tell Mitchell. I just went to the library for research and filled out applications. I got accepted to an MBA program with a partial scholarship. It was small. It was for nights only. It was my way of building something that was just mine. Mitchell was furious. Not visibly. Not in the way that leaves bruises. But he was furious in the way that matters, which is the way that gets inside your bones. He didn't support me. He made comments about how expensive it was, how unnecessary, how I was probably going to fail, how it was selfish of me to spend time on myself when he was under so much stress at work, how other wives would never do this to their husbands. I almost quit 3 times, but something kept me going. Maybe it was that moment in the doorway. Maybe it was finally understanding that I was disappearing in real time, and if I didn't do something about it, I might vanish entirely. I worked double shifts at a consulting firm by day. I went to classes by night. I came home exhausted, and Mitchell would be asleep or pretending to be, and I would sit at the kitchen table at 2 in the morning doing homework while the city slept outside and my marriage died inside. It took me 3 years to finish that degree. During those 3 years, Mitchell started mentioning Stephanie. At first, it was innocent. She worked at his firm, she was great with clients, she was so focused on her yoga brand. Then it was something different. He started staying late at the office. He said it was business. I believed him because I wanted to believe that the man I'd sacrificed for, the man I'd remade myself around, the man I'd given 7 years to, wouldn't actually betray me in the most cliché way possible. But clichés exist because they're true. When I finally confronted him, he didn't even try to deny it. He just looked tired. He said he loved me, but he wasn't in love with me anymore. He said it had nothing to do with Stephanie, and everything to do with the fact that I wasn't the woman he married. He said I'd changed. I'd become ambitious. I'd become distant. I'd prioritized my education over him. I remember laughing, actually laughing, because what he was actually saying without realizing it, was that he'd loved me better when I was small. The divorce was clean. He offered me money, a settlement that was generous by most standards, but insulting by others, because it was the price he was willing to pay to make me disappear from his life. I took it. I moved into a studio apartment in Queens. I finished my degree. I got a job at a nonprofit that pays less than I could make elsewhere but feels like work that matters. I started therapy. I started understanding that what happened to me wasn't my fault, but staying the same way forever would be. I thought I was healing. And then I saw Stephanie wearing my ring at a coffee shop on a Tuesday afternoon. The rage that comes next is different from anything I've felt before. It's not hot. It's architectural. It builds. It has blueprint. I don't approach her. I don't say anything. I just take out my phone and start recording. Not the video, the moment, the angle, the lighting, the way the diamond catches in the afternoon sun, exactly the way I remember it catching in my own life. Then I leave. What happens next takes place over the course of 6 weeks, and it requires patience and precision and a kind of cold clarity that surprises me with its availability. Because here's what I've learned about myself in the aftermath of my marriage. I'm actually incredibly good at strategy when I'm not trying to make someone else look good. First, I reach out to Mitchell's assistant. I knew her from the company parties. She always seemed too smart to be working as an assistant. I bring her coffee. I listen to her talk about how underappreciated she is. I mention casually that I've been thinking about starting a consulting business and could use someone with her organizational skills. 6 weeks later, she's working for me. More importantly, she gives me something I need before she leaves Mitchell's firm: access to his files, archived emails, deleted messages, text exchanges. Everything a man, like Mitchell, a man who assumed his assistants existed for his convenience, never thought to secure. What I find is not actually a surprise, it's confirmation. 7 years of emails showing a pattern of behavior. Women at the firm, interns, clients, a trail of carefully deleted messages suggesting a man who'd been unfaithful almost the entire duration of our marriage. But more importantly, emails showing that his business success wasn't actually his success. It was mine. The marketing campaign that landed his biggest client. I conceptualized it. He presented it. The entire restructuring of his business model 4 years ago. I researched it. He implemented it. The innovation in his approach to social media marketing that made everyone think he was a genius. I developed it. He took credit for it. There were emails acknowledging this. Emails from his business partners asking for clarification on who actually did the work. Emails from Mitchell explicitly saying he needed to keep me in the background because the brand is stronger if it's centered on me personally. It was all there. 7 years of intellectual theft, 7 years of planned erasure. I take my findings to a lawyer. A good lawyer. The kind who sees what I'm describing and says, "This is fraud." We file a complaint. Not for the ring. That's not actually worth the fight. We file because Mitchell's business was partially built on my intellectual property, and intellectual property law exists for exactly this reason. It's a slow process. It takes months, but it also takes momentum. My lawyer reaches out to his business partners. She shows them what I have. She explains that they, too, might be liable if they've knowingly benefited from stolen work. The business doesn't collapse all at once. It corrodes. One partner leaves, then another. Clients start requesting clarification on project ownership before continuing contracts. Investors get nervous. A Forbes article that was supposed to spotlight Mitchell's genius gets rewritten when a journalist follows the paper trail and discovers it's a different kind of story. Mitchell fights back. He hires lawyers of his own. He claims I'm a disgruntled ex-wife trying to sabotage him. He says the emails are taken out of context. He says Stephanie is a witness to my emotional instability and vindictiveness. Stephanie, bless her, turns out to be less loyal than he thought. When his lawyer tries to prepare her as a character witness, she realizes that Mitchell has lied to her about the divorce settlement. She's not the girlfriend he married for her yoga brand and youth. She's the collateral damage of his attempt to minimize what he owes me. She calls me. This is 3 months into the legal battle. "I don't want to be part of this," she says quietly. "Then don't be," I tell her. And she's not. She provides nothing to his defense. She's actually quite clear in a deposition that she has no personal knowledge of any project ownership or intellectual property disputes. She's just a woman who started dating a man she now realizes she didn't actually know. By month 6 of the legal process, the case is settled. Mitchell agrees to a new settlement that reflects the actual value of my intellectual contributions. It's more money than I expected. Enough to buy a small apartment in Brooklyn. Enough to actually build something. He also agrees, as part of the settlement, to publicly acknowledge my contributions to the work that built his company. It's a short statement, clearly begrudging, released through his lawyer. But it exists. It's documented. It's there. The ring, by the way, becomes the least important thing about all of this, but somewhere in the settlement process, I request it. Not to wear, not to keep, just to have, as proof that I wasn't insane, that I did pick it out, that it was mine first. Stephanie's already given it back. She doesn't want it anymore. I don't wear it either. I put it in a drawer. But I open that drawer sometimes and look at it, and what I feel isn't sadness. It's not rage, either. It's something stranger. It's clarity. Because what Mitchell didn't understand, what I didn't understand about myself for a long time, is that the woman he fell in love with, the small, ambitious version of me, the version that fit inside his vision, that woman never actually existed. He created her. And I let him. And then I was shocked when she disappointed him. The real me showed up eventually, and the real me was too much for him to handle. In the months after the settlement, I go back to therapy and talk about this. My therapist asks what I learned, and I realize the answer is longer than I expected. I learned that sacrifice without reciprocity is just depletion. I learned that love should expand you, not contract you. I learned that the voice inside my head telling me I was selfish for wanting more, that was his voice, not mine. I learned that ambition in a partner is only threatening if you're threatened by their growth. But mostly, I learned that being left doesn't always mean you're being abandoned. Sometimes it means you're finally being released. 2 years after the coffee shop incident, I run into Mitchell at a gallery opening. He's alone. Stephanie is no longer in the picture, apparently. He looks smaller than I remember, or maybe I'm just taller now. He approaches me. He says he's sorry. He says he's been in therapy. and he understands now how he treated me. He says I was right to fight back. I believe him, probably. People do change, but I also don't care anymore. That's the thing that surprises me most. His apology doesn't heal anything because there's nothing left to heal. The person who needed that apology doesn't exist anymore. I hope you're happy, I tell him, and I mean it in the way that you mean it when you're saying goodbye to someone forever. Are you? He asks. And the answer is yes. Not because I won. Not because the legal settlement vindicated me. Not because the business suffered. I'm happy because I'm here. Because I'm real. Because I built something after he tried to erase me, and it's mine, and nobody can take it. The ring is still in that drawer. Sometimes I think about selling it, and then I decide not to. Not because I'm holding on to the past, but because it's evidence. Not of his betrayal, but of my clarity. I gave that ring to a man who didn't deserve it, and I survived it. And now I choose differently.